Data is the new oil. Yes, you heard me right. In a world where several gigabytes, if not terabytes, of data are being generated every minute, the next Rockefellers will be the ones who position themselves to take advantage of this special opportunity. Data, however, is mostly not perfect and requires a series of processes to make it ready for us to use, one of which is data labeling. In this episode, we sit with Ahmed Rashad, a mechanical engineer by training and an MIT alumnus whose enthusiasm for technology opened doors for him to work in prestigious companies like Amazon, McKinsey and Company, Oracle, and Scale AI, and eventually become the founder of his own Sapien.io. He walks us through his winding journey and how the loss of a loved one made him more empathetic and also prioritize his mental health. Enjoy today's episode.
This episode is brought to you by Big Spark. Big Spark is the UK's fastest growing data solutions consultancy, translating your business needs into data architecture, strategy, and engineering. Together with their technical partners, they focus on swift and efficient business value delivery. Taking an innovative approach to every challenge, Big Spark is an agile team of over 100 world-class engineers and data scientists pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved with AI, data, software, cloud, and machine learning. To find out how Big Spark can ignite your data solution, visit us at www.bigspark.dev. Big Spark, igniting change through engineering. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the Tech Stuff Podcast, where we navigate today's tech wave one electrifying conversation at a time. I am your host, Raymond Klutse, and today I have a distinguished guest in our midst to walk us through his very interesting journey. I do not want to spoil, I do not want to give you all the juice right away, but today I have Ahmed Rashad. I believe I got it right, the pronunciation. Is it Rashid or Rashad?
Rashad, you got it perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so I have Ahmed Rashad on the Tech Stuff podcast to have a very interesting conversation with us. So, Ahmed, thank you so much for accepting to be part of today's episode of the Tech Stuff podcast.
Thank you, Raymond, for having me.
Perfect. Okay, so in the shortest amount of time, we want you to, introduce yourself, who you are, brief background, and then we can get into today's conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently the CEO and founder of Sapien.io. We're a company that's trying to make data labeling available to
Mm,
a whole broad set of customers and to a new market, while at the same time bringing jobs to a lot of people, like millions of people all around the globe.
impressive, impressive. Okay, so that was one of the best brief introductions I've ever had on the Tech Stuff podcast, and I like it that way. All right, so let's get back into time. I always like us to do a bit of a journey back into time. I'm sure before you became CEO, there were so many things that went on in your life. And one question I like to ask my guests is, what is your tech story like? So walk us through your tech journey.
Yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and my tech journey actually started in a very unconventional way. It started my first job after undergrad. I was an offshore oil driller, and as I was doing, offshore oil drilling stuff, swinging sledgehammers and making holes in the ground,
Mhm.
I came across a problem, and it was very interesting. And I realized I could solve it with code, so I went and learned how to code, build a product, and that's how I transitioned to tech. I realized I like this code thing.
Interesting, interesting. And for that matter, you continued after your mechanical engineering to the prestigious MIT.
I did. That was a very very fun journey. I learned so much there. It's an unbelievable place that you. It's very difficult to describe. You have to be there, and I felt like the only admissions mistake throughout my time there. I thought, I can't
Okay.
be here.
Okay, I know you said it's very difficult to describe, but I want you to give us the best summary of what it was like being on the grounds or on campus at MIT.
It is intense.
Mm,
It is intense in a very it's intense in a very familiar setting because the people I was there with, my classmates and the people I worked with, they felt closer to family than classmates.
mm,
But at the same time, each and every one of them was the top of their class, or the
Mm.
top of they're the top student in the country, or they've all done some pretty amazing things, right?
All right.
And they're all incredibly smart and exceptional
Mm.
in amazing ways. And it's a collective of overachievers who never stop pushing themselves. And by doing that, without realizing, you actually push the people around you even more.
Right.
You have
Right.
to push it like, I'm
Right.
not as good, I'm not as good, I gotta get better.
Mm.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
it heats up on everyone all the time.
I can imagine because I know where I want to get to. So I'm also surrounded by friends who constantly push me, who will not encourage my stupidity, but will always, get me to, think wide, and even if I make mistakes, correct me quickly and I can move forward. So you are African because Egypt is in Africa, like we were having the chit chat. I know the debate is a bit of I understand, most of the time when people think Africa, they go straight to skin color, but I always want to debunk that because I do have cousins who are mixed race who are equally African, and
Mhm.
also have people who may not necessarily even be mixed race, but then may have a lighter tone, like in your case. So you are from Egypt and you are African, and I think you did you grow up in Cairo or you grew up elsewhere?
I grew up in Abu Dhabi in the UAE,
Oh, okay. Well, that's
and
that's actually funny because my dad worked in Dubai for some time, so I have visited, and I am a fan. I am a fan. I'm a fan of the UAE.
it's a very impressive and unique place.
Yes, yes, we will say that it is. It is. Okay, so how was it like for you, having grown up in Cairo or in Abu Dhabi and moving to the US to start a whole new journey altogether? Education, did you move with family? Do you have family there already? Or it was just that I'm packing my bags, you're going on this adventure, and here it is. Let's just go.
Yeah, yeah. I was born in Abu Dhabi. I grew up
Okay.
there, went to high school there, and it was an amazing place filled with a lot of wonders, actually. And then I moved to Cairo. Lived there for 5 years, and I was based out of Cairo, even though I was working all over when I was working on the oil rigs. And then when I started going into software, the first good opportunity I wanted to pursue is actually with the startup in Saudi Arabia.
All
So
right.
I packed my bags and moved to Saudi and hopped around a little bit. Spent some time in Malaysia, some time
All
in
right.
Turkey, Switzerland.
All right.
Always went back to Saudi,
Mm,
and then I realized I wanted to go in this brand new journey. I want to go after the best education. I want to go
mm,
after best ecosystem to start a company, and I wanted
mm,
to start a company that's going to be one of the best companies as well.
mm.
And
All right.
as I was looking at it, it's all a matter of chances. And what I realized was the U.S. has probably the best ecosystem for all of this to
All
happen.
right.
Now, I'm not saying it can't happen anywhere else. It
All
just
right.
increases your odds because of how the concentration of talent and companies and money and so on and so forth, and innovation and so on and so forth.
All right. Okay. So I Ghana recently discovered oil, right? Some time ago, and we're still trying to find a way to make that into a resource that can be beneficial to our country. I know the UAE is littered with a lot of oil, and that is, they're literally sitting in oil. And oil is such a great resource, and it's money. Like oil can be used in so many ways. You
Mhm.
had a very promising budding career ahead of you to become an oil expert, to become a consultant, to maybe have your own franchise, whatever it is you want to call it. And
Yeah.
then you choose to leave. I'm just wondering, like, let's talk about that a little bit. You started drilling oil. Why did you choose to leave?
So that is quite interesting. The main reason, well, there are two reasons. One,
Mm,
I love the premise of software versus oil because with
okay.
software, you could do things that are very asymmetrical.
Mm,
With software, one person could increase the efficiency of 1,000 people.
mm,
With software, one person can make something happen that wasn't possible before,
Right.
right? So
Right.
it opens up all these incredible possibilities, and it makes it closes the gap between dreams and reality quite a bit,
Mm, mm,
and that is incredibly attractive,
mm,
right? That is
mm,
incredibly attractive. Um, Oil, on the other hand, again, it's incredibly important. I think people underestimate how critical oil is in our life, and how
mm.
most of the stuff that we have today, and that are critical to our health, to our food, nutrition, everything is quite dependent on oil or one of its derivatives. It's incredibly important,
Right.
not just for the energy, but also for the derivatives, right?
Right.
However, oil for all intents and purposes, is a very stable industry with very little innovation. So
Mm,
at the end of the day, the way I saw oil for me was, and it's incredibly important, is I'm going to go do this. I'm gonna go in day out, go up through the ranks. Maybe if I put a ridiculous amount of effort, I'll get some innovation later on.
right.
But it's gonna be a job. It can never be a hobby.
Got it.
When I started in software, it was a hobby,
Right. I got it.
and a hobby that makes money, which is great.
I mean, who doesn't want? Everyone wants their passion to, eventually become, the source of income. So it makes perfect sense. So you went to MIT, and I'm assuming that you didn't necessarily read any the engineering you read there was not necessarily focused on mechanical engineering. What kind of engineering did you read at MIT?
Supply chain and operations research.
Okay. All right. So how did you get started in your tech journey? I know you said there was during a time when you were drilling oil, you realized you could solve some problems with code. But I want to know how did you get started? Was it typical, I'm playing around Python, or you went straight to COBOL? That's if COBOL is still COBOL is still in use. But yes, walk us through your tech journey, like how you
So,
got started. Yeah.
yeah. So, so the very intro to how to think about this was actually funny enough with Excel and VB Code, and then I started moving to I started learning about C++ and Java.
Okay.
But that was, oh my god, time flies. That was almost 20 years ago.
Wow. 20
Yeah.
years ago. What was I doing 20 years ago? I was still clueless about life. But
I
yeah.
still am. I still am clueless. I
That
just, it's
tr-
just
that and that is the truth. Like I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today. He's 27. He says he's having a bit of, a moment, for the lack of a better word, a midlife crisis. And I was like, listen, you will be surprised. You're not even mid in your life yet, but you will be surprised that the people that we even look up to as having things figured out are still figuring things out. The only thing they have is they're taking one step forward. They are learning to take more risks and just keeping into forward motion. Sometimes forward motion into nowhere, but knowing that at least potentially it could hit them to a wall, then they can backtrack and get to, or take a different route and move to a different place. So yes, I mean, we all figuring things out, and it's the most beautiful thing that I think anyone can accept in the long run.
yeah.
Okay, so you've done it all. One will go to your LinkedIn and see it all. They see the big brands, Amazon, Oracle, McKinsey, the everything. First off, how does it feel to have one of the best CVs on LinkedIn?
I'm flattered.
You're flattered. Okay.
Thank you. Frankly, I don't know. I
Well,
genuinely don't know.
right,
It was so reflecting back. I think it has opened up opportunities for me. It has made doing what I wanted to do a bit easier,
right.
um, probably, uh,
Mm,
and it has allowed me to just open the door and be able to connect with some incredible people
mm,
who I'm guessing if it weren't for the pedigree, they wouldn't have answered the whatever the cold email or the
true.
cold call or the message
Right,
or LinkedIn
right,
and so on,
right,
outreach and so on.
right.
So
Mm,
I frankly I think it helped quite a bit. It also in a lot of ways also I try to do this with myself and with my teams, where the only things that have merit in general should be the quality of your ideas and your ability to execute.
Mm,
Beyond that, pedigree, age, gender, which company you used to work for, what was your previous title,
mm,
what's your level of education, all of that stuff doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, it's all about the idea and can you execute on it or not.
mm,
Everything else is everything else will allow you to come to the table,
mm,
but once you're on the table,
mm,
it doesn't matter.
mm. Got it. You did mention the quality of ideas. What would you say makes an idea quality? People say ideas are never new, there's always, like, there's nothing new under the sun. But then we maybe the way your expression of that particular thing is what's going to make a difference. For example, social media wasn't anything necessarily new. We had Yahoo. Even before that, we had MSN. Oh, wow, okay, I'm going back into
It was
even that's quite some time, right? And we even had maybe,
ICQ.
okay, probably I'm not in that area, but definitely High Five came, died, and now we say we have, and even the current ones we have, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the major ones are all social media, but then they're all expressing themselves in different ways. So ideas are, the way you make them to become. What would you say, based on your experience, makes an idea a quality idea?
Yeah. So it's quite interesting, right? So a quality idea, in my mind, has one of two characteristics. One, it either sees something that the conventional wisdom and most people don't see,
Mm,
or two, it is an idea about something that exists. It's not necessarily something novel,
mm,
but it's something that is deep and nuanced and looks at the second and third and fourth order effect of things.
right,
It's very well thought through. That makes it a quality idea. So, for
right,
example, ideas in general are not that expensive, right?
right,
Except a very very small part of it.
right.
Anyone could come today and say, "Oh, I'm going to start. How about if we make cars more energy efficient?" Great. Like, okay, fantastic. How?
Okay.
It's like, okay. It's like it's not worth anything, right?
Mm,
But someone could come today and say, actually, because of this and this and that, I think we can make cars run on, I don't know,
water.
nitrogen or water, right?
Mm,
And I think the science, I haven't figured it out yet, but I think this is roughly how the science would work. And this is why
mm,
I think it might be right. That's a good hypothesis. You
mm,
need to tweak it a little bit, but that's a good hypothesis.
mm,
Versus, let's make it more efficient. I was like, okay.
mm, mm.
Less
Right,
pollution. Fantastic.
right,
Yes, agree, 100%. What's
right,
next?
right. Impressive. Let's stay a little bit on your previous experiences. So you have, been a a product manager, head of operations. Prior, you talk about you having drilled oil, but it's more of engagement manager, product manager, and head of operations and solutions, senior solutions engineer. First off, which one was your favorite?
I love them all. Uh,
Okay.
I love them all. My favorite is frankly is what I'm doing now. I think
Okay.
it's truly it's a problem that I think that's worth solving.
Mm,
It's a team that I like, trust, and respect,
mm,
and it is a problem where I think I'm very well suited to serve or solve and can bring a lot of value to it, which is a great trifecta, right? It's like
right.
it's like it's incredible that I actually can't stop thinking about it, which
Mm,
could be a problem in the long run, right?
right. Right. Got it. So, your experience is very rich, and I'm sure that it all led you to become the CEO that you are. I want us to first talk about the CEO mentality because being an employee and being an employer is different. What time in this whole journey of you working in all these great companies, transitioning from from one to the other, got you to that eureka moment of I need to start doing something. I need to start contributing something. I need to create something that has my name on it, or even other people's name on it. But I want to be at the forefront of something.
Yeah, funny enough, it wasn't my own realization. It was a couple of my close friends who spoke to me independently.
All right.
We were talking about work stuff and how do I do this and how do I do that, and they were like we were very close friends, like
All
we're
right.
friends for a very long time. And both of them individually, as I wanted advice on something I was working on, and they're like, dude, you know the answer to your problems is, and of course I ask what, and they're like, go be a CEO of your own thing.
Mm,
This is what you're supposed to do.
mm,
And it is funny because from the beginning, from the very beginning, from the very first job, whenever I took on a job, I choose to do very few things, but when I choose to do something, I choose to go all in on it.
mm,
So from the very beginning, I couldn't just let things go that I believe could be better. I couldn't let it go.
mm.
Uh, Starting from the oil rig and moving on, I was like, I'm not just going to accept it for what it is. There is a better answer. I'm going to go find it.
All right.
I find opportunity somewhere, I'm going to go after it. And I always felt suffocated that my hands were tied because I had narrow scope or whatever the scope was. It was always too narrow,
Right.
right? I wasn't responsible for sales, but I thought the approach was not the best, and there was unserved market, and I couldn't let it go. And this was always something that I felt burning inside me: is no, there is opportunity. This could be optimized at a higher level than what I am doing right now.
All right.
Before I do anything, I'm going to nail my piece down, and then I'm going to go do the rest. But I still feel constrained,
All right.
and that was a persistent problem until my friends went,
All right.
"That's actually what you should do."
Mm. Impressive. So now let's get into sapient AI. AI is all over. All right. Right now, every domain name will slap some AI in there, and you just know it's going to be a lot of, it's going to get some hype. I did data science, and most of the things that are, most of the hype around AI and everything. I did a bit of the low level stuff, so I did a bit of ML, natural language processing, so a bit of that. Doing more of data engineering and DevOps and a bit of data science from time to time. So I'm not doing heavy data science stuff,
Hmm.
but people feel AI is overhyped. But I'm also impressed with the development because when I was in school, my professor said that in a few years, NLP was going to become a huge part of our lives. And truth be told, Ahmed, I didn't really enjoy NLP that much because it was just bots, chat bots, and it was just a lot of text analysis, sentiment analysis, and all that. And it was very text heavy,
Yeah.
and for some reason I wasn't really enjoying it so much. Then 2 years down the line, or like 2 years after, here we are talking to chatbots to create CV templates for us, to create meeting templates for us, to even help us design homes and all that. And I'm like, wow, NLP has come to take over and is doing so well. Now everyone is getting into AI.
Hmm.
Would you say you're just joining the bandwagon, or you have found a particular problem that hits home that you would want to solve using AI?
Yeah. A couple of thoughts there. So we are in the business. We're an infrastructure business. So we
Okay.
enable AI to start.
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of the advanced applications and the complex applications cannot proceed without services like ours
Mm,
and tools like ours. The other thing is AI. Of course, it's hot, and there are a lot of good applications, and there's a huge amount of potential. And I think, frankly, I think we barely scratched the surface.
mm,
Now, that said, anything like that with this amount of hype and potential will naturally attract a lot of people. Some who have really good ideas about what the future might be, and
all right.
some that don't, right? And that's fine. Some ideas are not very deep, and so on and so forth. And that's why we see a lot of hype, and that's fine.
Mm,
Now, my approach in general, it's always focused around the problem rather than the tool.
right.
So, in my own work, while we're doing, for example, where we're adding human feedback and we're doing parts of the task, and so some parts of our job can be done with AI, but I refuse to do them just so that I have a banner and say I use AI in my job, I use AI in my
Mm,
tools, right?
mm,
So that's not the purpose. AI is a tool. At the end of the day, my job is to provide this service and these tools and this product to my customers in the highest quality way, as fast as possible, with as little lift from them as possible, as cheaply as possible.
Right.
And sometimes you put in AI and it helps, it looks like it's helping, but when you look at the system overall, it actually doesn't help that much. And in those
Mm.
cases, I refuse to use the AI as it exists today. I either improve it and make it more useful, or I cut
Right.
it out.
Hello there, Tech Surfers. I have got some news for you. The Tech Surf podcast is now on Instagram and LinkedIn. Follow us on Instagram at the Tech Surf podcast and LinkedIn, the Tech Surf podcast, to stay up to date on new episodes and to get interactive. Don't forget to like, share, and send us feedback on your favorite episodes and the lessons you've learned. See you soon.
So, Sapient AI, how did you come up with the concept? Were you just one day sleeping and, you know what, data's not in good shape? Companies need better data because my boss says if he was supposed to write a book, he's going to say data is trash. And I understand where he's coming from. Or data is rubbish. I think that was his. And I'm just wondering for you, what does that look like? What what led you to start Sapient AI?
Yeah, yeah. So the story actually starts quite a bit before Sapient. It actually starts. It starts during my time at MIT when I was working on this forecasting piece, and I was working on this forecasting algorithms, and I was trying to figure out how do I have this enormous amount of history, but I cannot tag it automatically in large swaths. I need someone to go through the events who understands and tell me what each event represented at that point of time. But that was
Right,
very difficult because you need to log it now, right?
right,
Like if something happens today, 3 months from now, most of us will not remember, and you need to do significant digging. So I
right.
think that solution not possible at that time. It required too much effort, and it wasn't gonna work for what I was working
Mm,
on. Fast forward, and I got a chance at at McKinsey, to do something like that, and
mm,
started to see the discrepancies in how people are attributing or labeling or adding feedback onto the data, even though I gave some very detailed instructions, said the rules,
right.
boundaries, all of that stuff, and started to see the variability, especially on the more complex tasks. So started building up an intuition for that, and started realizing and asking myself, well, if this is one project, one case, and I keep running it in again, I wonder how big that is.
Mm,
Anyway, didn't act on it at the time, got distracted, started working on other stuff. Had my own project at Amazon that required data labeling, and had to figure out solutions for them. And now I actually had to implement them in mass, had to build a large operation.
mm,
And then I got a call from Scale AI, who are today, I believe, are the largest player in the field,
right.
and joined them early on, and built ops and growth machines there. And I started doing this professionally now.
Oh, you see.
uh,
So,
yeah, please go
so-
ahead.
no, no. So I'm saying. So I was saying. So you're a professional data labeler.
In a lot of ways,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah. So we did that at Scale, and Scale was this incredible, unbelievable journey. Right.
Mm,
I started with the company. I think I was number 40, and I saw the company go to 7.3 billion valuation in 2 years, right? And it was unbelievably explosive growth.
mm,
So as you can imagine, as the growth is happening with the valuations and the sales and all of that, the
mm,
ops engineering machines on the back are
mm,
running like
mm.
hamsters in the wheel nonstop, right? To support that. It
All
was
right.
so I managed to learn a lot, and we managed to
Mm,
build a lot in a very, very short period of
all
time,
right.
which was amazing. But also, I got to see the underbelly, and we were solving problems, by the way, that no one had faced before, no one had solved before.
Right.
And I got to see the underbelly of the labeling industry. And then
Mm,
I left the industry for a little bit, took a little break, and I was introduced to my co-founder now by a common friend who was helping with the models and data and so on.
mm,
He started asking all these questions. Why? Why does it have to be this way? What
mm,
about this other way? And he
mm,
didn't know. He was generally asking. And then
mm,
it hit me that, oh, I was so deep into this, I forgot to pull my head out and look at the big picture and go act on it. I forgot about all these problems. I forgot about all
Mm,
these issues. I'm gonna go solve
mm, right,
them. So
right, right. What has it been like, or what has the journey to entrepreneurship been like so far? You've had to be in a lot of head or like senior roles. You've had to be in, you have a lot of, you- you've led a lot of teams over a period of time, and now you have to be in control of teams. It's not, you, you have a co-founder, but you are the brain that has to allow. Okay, talk a little bit about that. I mean, okay, you're part of the core brain that has to. Because at the end of the day, as CEO, final decisions and everything will have to come from you. I believe, right? What has a journey to entrepreneurship been like for you? What has it been like so far for you?
it's again, frankly, it's kind of similar to how I felt at MIT,
Mm,
where I am incredibly driven to do something wonderful,
right,
but you're under pressure all the time from everything.
right,
Because at the end of the day, this starts and stops with me. There's no outsourcing.
right,
Doesn't matter how the world feels.
right,
Doesn't matter what happens. If this works, it's on me. If the team made it work. If it fails, it's
right, right,
and I'm responsible and accountable for everything.
right.
And it's a great feeling, but I can't stop thinking about it. And at the same time, I think I attempted my hand at intrapreneurship before a while at companies with the paycheck coming in, and you know what, if it I know if it doesn't work, it's fine.
Mm,
I'm gonna start another project or whatever. I
mm,
think there's a difference between entrepreneurship within a safer environment
mm,
and entrepreneurship where you have rent anxiety,
right,
right? Especially in
right,
the very early stages, you don't know what's going to happen. You're an anomaly. You're the
right,
exception, right?
right,
You're not
right,
meant to exist, and
right, right.
but you will it to exist. So it
Right,
exists.
right. I understand. I'm going to ask a question. It may feel a bit on a tangent, but I just want to find out: do you cry sometimes on some days when you're overwhelmed?
Not because of work, no.
Okay, okay. Then let's talk a little bit about that. What has potentially made you cry? Maybe not necessarily about work, but do you shed a tear naturally?
Dish out a tear naturally. So I have two children, and
Okay,
this might get a little personal. So I have two children. I used to have three.
okay. Oh,
So everything generally, I have a very very soft spot for children suffering, and that just really really touches a
mm,
very soft spot for me.
right, right,
Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of pain and suffering for children that could be avoided and is incredibly avoidable. There's a lot of pain and suffering that the world goes through, and you know what? I'm not saying it's fine. I'm saying it's like pain and suffering in general is a natural part of life.
mm,
But I feel that a lot of the pain that children go through today is quite avoidable,
mm,
and it's a chord for me.
mm, mm. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that you have lost a child before, and I'm impressed by how much you're still humorous and everything, and it's even an encouragement because I recently lost a cousin, and very young bloke about my age, starting a good career, had a promising career ahead of him. Everything was just working fine in the financial world, and one day I just got a text that was it, and
Yeah,
I've just been very pensive. I've just been very putting myself in the shoes of a parent and having to take that in, and also in the shoes of my parents, how they feel and everything. And it's just got me into so many places, but I'm just taking the days one at a time. And on the back of this conversation we're having about loss and pain and everything, entrepreneurship, leading a company and everything is a non-trivial task, and it takes a huge strain on you. which leads to a lot of, mental health issues in the long run. How would you say you've handled some of the most trying times in your career? What is your form of catharsis in dealing with such situations?
Yeah, that's a that's a great question. I would say it varied,
Mm,
and early on, I would take everything very personally. I would obsess over it. I wouldn't let it go. I would keep going and going and going, and I guess I
mm,
had the energy for it
mm.
until at one point I burned out and I didn't even realize it. I
Right,
completely burned out,
right.
and I didn't even realize it. But I recovered slowly, but I recovered,
Mm,
and then I burnt out again. Actually, I burnt out twice in my career. That's when I started thinking, what is this? Why? Like, I'm generally a very high energy, very engaged. Why do I go into these phases of actually not caring
mm.
or not wanting to do anything?
Right,
Because it's not me, right? Like,
right.
I'm usually, hey, let's go.
So no, you definitely you're very much an energetic person. So why do you get that? Yeah, I know.
And I realized that, and I started thinking about it. I started thinking about it a lot, and I realized that, and I read about it, and it's like, okay, so is it the amount of work? No, it's not. It's actually not. Actually,
Mm,
when I get to this burnout stage, it's amazing. It's usually when I'm working the least.
mm,
And I realized it's not about the amount of work, it's about whether I actually believe in what I'm doing or not, and whether I believe in the things I have to do to get to where I need to be. So, for
right,
example, if there are a lot of, excuse my language, but BS meetings, right?
right.
Stuff that are just for the sake, we do them just for the sake of them.
Mm,
It's a self-sustaining wheel. We need them because if we don't do them, then we won't be able to say we do them. And if we don't,
right, right.
it's just this wheel, and it's incredibly frustrating to me. So that was one angle where I just made a decision that no more of this.
Mm,
I'm gonna cut as much as is in my power. I'm gonna cut those things out, and um, I'm going to be very thoughtful about how me and the people in my sphere manage and use their time.
right,
And we are here to do a job. We're going to do it really, really well.
right.
Once it's done, it's done. You go home.
Mm,
You have other things to do.
mm,
That's the other part. Have other things to do.
mm,
So in right now we're super busy. We're
mm,
working all the time. I'm working on product. I'm working on sales. I'm working on fundraising. I'm working on a whole lot of things, right?
right.
Hiring and so on and so forth. But in the midst of all of that, I have forced myself to take a couple of breaks during the day.
Mm,
One, to go work out. Two, to go cook my own dinner and talk to my girls and talk to my mother and so on and so forth. Uh, and connect with my friends and so on. But when I'm working, I'm 100% working. But then I
right.
have these times that I don't care what's going on.
Mm,
I have this time and this is just for me. This is just for my family. This is just for my health and so on and so forth. And I protect this time and I encourage my people to do the same. So
mm,
tell me, like every day from whatever 7 to 8, I'm having dinner with my family.
mm,
Don't bother me, or if you bother me, I'm not going to respond. That's hundred
right,
percent fine. That's actually good. That's healthy,
right,
right?
right, right.
Um, and the moment I did that, I noticed a lot of good things happen. My health started getting better. My sleep started getting better. And surprise, surprise, I actually started becoming way more productive.
Mm, right. I am a strong advocate for us not becoming like, okay, let me rephrase that. I try to remind myself every now and then that there's more to me than my job. A job is there to help you contribute to society and also to get some money in the long run to pay your bills. That's
Yes.
fundamentally that. Now, I know some jobs may have, stringent hours that are required, a lot of things that, come to play. So you may have to put in a bit of extra work here and there. But then it becomes very detrimental when your job becomes your entire life, when family can't see you, friends can't see you, no one has access to you, and everything is around your job. And then it becomes, a bit of a challenge, and it's something I'm working on. I know there are different seasons of work-life balance. I don't think do we really ever get a good balance? No, but we always manage a better balance. So our work-life balance, there are times where you do more work than you do more social. There are times where maybe work is not as busy, or depending on the kind of career you're in. But I'm glad to know that you have incorporated different things, like having reconnection with your girl, speaking with family. That's what I did. France was hard. I was
Yeah.
the only Ghanaian in France, for that matter.
Oh my God.
I studied I was studying in French. I speak fluent French, yes, but I was studying data science concept in French.
Oh, yeah.
Already, even in English language, it's
Yeah.
difficult, let alone that adding up a language. I was only Ghanaian and I had to find community in different people. And that comes with a bit of challenges. You have to become like them, or you have to just be you and have to face the likelihood of being rejected or accepted, And it wasn't any issue about colorism or anything, because my best friends in France were German and a French guy. We had our own challenges. We had to navigate so many dynamics, but eventually we became friends. But France was very hard. I keep telling people that I'm not saying it was hard because I don't want you to go. I'm just telling you it was hard because it was hard. So prepare before you go, so that when you eventually get there, and whether culture shock, whether academic shock, or whether life shock in general hits you, you are not taken aback. And one of the things that really helped me was talking about it, hopping on a call with family and friends. I had this small community of friends back at home calling me, checking up on me, praying for me. It was so helpful. Whenever I went home and I had to go back to France, especially during the COVID season, I was always dreading it because I had missed that, that family, that vibe of people just keeping you going. So dealing with grief or dealing with hard times, talking about it, I also started, working out a little bit. Didn't really succeed that much. I stopped a little bit. I'm trying to add that a bit more. I started running, but I think for me, my form of catharsis, I am a musician, and mine is music. So writing, poetry, singing,
Hmm.
walking. I did a bit of walking. Those are ways that I like to empty my head of any form of negative energy.
Yes.
Speaking about recreation or leisure, I know you've mentioned a few things. I can hear you're a cook, so hi there, high five,
High
cook.
five.
What?
It's spicy, by the way. So,
Uh,
yeah.
well, we love some spices. Why not? But tell me, what are the things that you like to do outside just being, behind your PC in meetings, Slack, Teams, calendar, and all that?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I've always been some form of athletic.
Okay.
I got out of shape a few times, and then I got back in shape.
Mm,
But I always go back to that. And right now, my main things are Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I
mm,
really got deep into that,
mm.
and I'm starting to get into rock climbing now, which is
Right.
incredible fun. And surprisingly, you use a lot of the same muscles as in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which is
Oh
good.
wow. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, and I wanted to talk a little bit about your career and also like where you've gotten to. I'm sure you may be actively mentoring some people, or maybe inactively. But how would you say mentorship has played a huge role in your career?
So I've always had people that were my go-to people for for anything, and
Mm,
I'd go and talk to them and ask them and have chats, and I guess that worked as mentorship. I've never had a formal mentor,
okay.
which frankly I kind of regret. Now, I try to correct that with my own career, where even now I'm still seeking mentors all the time. Right, I'm still seeking people
Mm,
who who will tell me, who will help me navigate the world, who will coach me through difficult situations, who will tell me the hard truth when
mm,
no one else is kind enough to tell me. And the way I try to correct that actually is by helping other people. So in my previous roles, um, I I always set high expectations for the teams, but I set the boundaries for them.
Right.
And I try to mentor as many people as I possibly can
Right.
within my team.
Right.
And for everyone else, like my doors open most of the time. I'm not going to say always because sometimes I'm busy,
Mm.
and sometimes there are topics that I'm not equipped to handle, so I will
Right.
withdraw from those, right?
Right.
But for the most part, I try to almost never turn away someone who asks for help.
Mm.
And if you're on my team, then this is our contract. You're going to give me the best work of your life, and I'm going to make sure that your career and your satisfaction progresses quite a bit more than anywhere else.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
I think it's a fair trade.
Yeah, it is. It sure is. You give and take. I think that's a whole world. The whole world is a matter of giving and taking. So it may not always have to be active. I have the chance of mentoring a few other guys, David included, and I mentor them in a different way, even using the pod. And through that, I'm seeing the different parts of them. And the beautiful thing is they've also found their own friendship group in there. They actually messaging themselves outside the group chat. And it was nice to know that one person told someone, what, I know you're going for your graduation, so don't bother preparing for that episode. I will take over. That was very nice because that is a sign of collaboration that we need in the workplace. And they are learning it at this low level, potentially to expand into the career. So that is very good. Now, I like asking my guests this question because probably you can tell I'm quite a thinker and a pensive person. If you read my medium and other stuff, most of my poetry is very try to be a bit deep sometimes. Maybe it's still shallow, but I'm trying. But I like to ask people if they could look back in their journey and change anything or do something differently, what would it be for you, Ahmed? Maybe
It's a
drill
very
maybe I don't know, drill oil a little bit more before you get into tech, or maybe
uh,
don't drill oil at all.
actually it's a very interesting question. So
Mm,
I definitely have things that, knowing what I know now, I would have done different. I
mm,
definitely have things that I regret. I definitely have things I wish didn't happen or things I
mm,
wish happened. I
right.
definitely have all of that. And that said, I would not change a thing because all of those mistakes, all of those struggles, all of that pain,
Right.
that is what shapes each and every one of us, our own recipe of experience and life and things that went your way and things that didn't. And I think at the end of the day, we fail to see the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth order effective things on life. And who
Right.
knows? Maybe if I had won the lottery, maybe things haven't wouldn't have gone
Mm,
well for me. Maybe if
mm,
I didn't go through this struggle and or had this bad thing happen to me, I would have walked down the street happy and joyous and not caring and got run over or something. Like you never know. You cannot know. We cannot see that far out in such a complex system, which is the world that we live in, right?
right.
So would I change anything? Absolutely not. The I also believe that life more or less is has its weird fairness to it
Mm,
because you cannot say fairness that a dollar is worth a dollar. It's not. A dollar to someone who has nothing is worth a whole lot more to someone who
right.
has a lot,
Right.
right? Yeah. So it's very different, and I think there's a bit of fairness, and I think we don't control the world, but the only thing we actually have control over is how we choose to conduct ourselves given the conditions that we have.
Mm,
That's the only thing I can control. That's the only thing I want to control.
mm.
And everything else just happens.
Just happens. Que sera, whatever will be, will be. Yeah, that is French. What's your favorite quote? What's your favorite quote you live by?
Favorite code? Ah.
A mantra.
There are a few.
Give us two if you can.
So one is fortune favors the bold. You do not achieve anything by wishing it. You do not achieve anything by being meek about it. You want to
Mm.
go do something incredible, go do something incredible.
Right.
Don't look at averages and think about this is what everyone's doing and go do that and then expect exceptional results. Like
Mm.
you do the average things, you're going to get average results. And guess
Right.
what? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And a combination of average things could lead to exceptional things.
Right.
But if you want to do in a specific thing, you want to do something exceptional, don't do the average. Fortune
Mm.
favors the bold.
Mm.
And 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 the other thing, it's actually a quote from Churchill. Um, it's if you're going through hell, keep going.
Wow. Expound a little bit.
It's a little dark, but it's also very insightful, right? So you're in a difficult situation, right?
Mm.
Forget about the quote saying hell and all that, but you're in a difficult situation. What do you do, right? Um, do you stop? Do you cry? Do you whine? Do you complain about how unfair things are and how unfortunate you are? What's that? That's not going to help you.
Right.
You keep going. And actually, my mother was the one who taught me that. She's a very, very, very interesting, very exceptional woman, I believe. And I was running through like my anyway, long story. My dad passed away when I was 15, and my dad passed away, and I couldn't. I was so hopeful I was going to come to university here in the U.S. and I couldn't afford it anymore.
Right.
I wasn't working. I was like, oh my world, blah blah blah, and all of them. She's like, okay, so she's like, what's happening with you? Like, what's wrong with you? He's like, oh, this and that. And she's like, okay, what else? I was like, this and that. I kept complaining. She's like, okay, what are you going to be? What are we going to do about it? Are we going to be a man, or are we just going to sit here and keep whining about it? We're going to be a
Right.
man and go make yourself worth something, or are you going to sit here and keep whining about it?
Mm.
That was her philosophy throughout. It's like things happen.
Mm. They sure do. Things sure do happen.
Yeah.
And
So keep going.
sometimes we, yeah, keep going. Sometimes we cannot really be in control of things. Um, I'm intrigued by Sapien, right? I've had to do some data labeling myself.
I'm sorry.
It's not the most exciting task.
Yeah.
I'll run you through a bit of it. So we were trying to build a model for sentiment analysis in French, and we had to get some tweets in a different language, and then attach some labels to them. And at the time, the AI space hadn't developed yet to do some of the stuff. But then there was a model that was think by Google, with a Facebook or so, that allowed you to be able to, there was some like it was trained on English language, but then you could apply it on French. So there was a bit of some language translation in there, and that was good. But before doing that, I had to still label the French data that I wanted to apply the model on, in like with the right sentiment that I thought it had, and it was a non-trivial task. It was a lot. Can you walk us through what what Sapient AI does, what you have to offer, and what's the next exciting thing you guys are about to bring to the market?
Yeah. Um, so so if you think about it, the market itself has evolved quite a bit.
Right,
So first of all, the demand has grown like logarithmically, right?
right,
And the tasks, the things that need to be labeled are getting more and more complex.
all right.
Now that creates a very, very interesting dynamic where there's a huge gap between supply and demand. And demand is growing,
Mm,
supply is shrinking,
right,
right? Because you need more and more complex things, which means you need more specialized folks to do things, which means there are fewer of those folks, they're more expensive,
all
they're
right,
more difficult to get, and so on and so forth. But it also creates this interesting dynamic where a lot of the jobs that were originally done by people who didn't need specialized knowledge are now disappearing,
right,
right? And these are millions and millions of people. Like I'm not exaggerating, right? Now, that is one side of the equation. Now, the other side of the equation is how this it has if things have evolved so quickly that people haven't had time to react.
right,
The way that jobs are done today is that you take the job as is, you give it almost entirely to one person. You find the person who is most qualified, who can do the hardest part of the job, and you give them the entire job.
right.
That's problematic
Mm.
in many ways, and I can dive into that. But the
Mm.
way we do it is we said, okay, so and by the way, there's a reason why that happens because most people when they think about data labeling, they think about, hey, here's a tool that's cool that has so many functions and features and all of that, or hey, I can solve a use case now.
Right.
We said no, this doesn't make sense. Data labeling is actually a wrong name in the beginning. It's not wrong. It's just not the name we choose to use. The name we choose to use is human feedback or human input
Okay.
because it's all about that human giving you part of their experience, part of their knowledge, part of
Right.
their skills, and documenting it in something.
Right.
The tool is just a tool. Who cares, right? It's all about the human. So we're going to go back and we're going to design the whole thing with the human in mind, around the human, for the human,
Right.
versus the tool for the tool,
Mm.
right? The second part, as we're working through this, we realized that the complexity is actually, frankly, the root cause of most problems. So we said, okay, we're going to dedicate most of our tech to breaking down this complexity. And so we take a complex task, a really complex task, think the
Mm.
most complex thing you have, and we break it down into very, very, very small components.
Mm.
And big surprise, most of those components don't need specialized skills.
Mm.
So guess what happens? Now we're taking jobs back to the people that got deprived from those jobs because of
Right.
specialization.
Right.
All of a sudden, we're not as constrained on growth because the scarce resources, we only need them for a fraction. And our costs are way lower because specialized resources are way more expensive. So
Mm.
my cost is lower, so I can afford to pay my people more.
Right. Got it. Got it.
So it's this flywheel, it's this loop that keeps
Mm.
feeding itself, right? I
Mm.
make things simpler, I reduce my costs, I afford to pay people more, people give me more
Right.
good work, I get
Right.
more work, and it keeps going.
Perfect. Perfect. Very entrepreneurial view. I mean, it is Ahmed Rashad, isn't it? Now, I want you, I mean, we have the pleasure of having you on the pod, and there are people out there, entrepreneurs and enthusiasts, like aspiring entrepreneurs who are listening. Like, oh, wow, Ahmed has started this great company and it's already taking flight. I've never gone to McKinsey. I've never worked at Amazon. I don't have the capability to go to MIT, but I still think I have something little that I could, create to serve the world at large. What is the
Mhm.
best advice you give to an aspiring entrepreneur, even entrepreneurs currently, to keep going? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it goes back to one of the core concepts is your pedigree, tenure, job titles, all of that stuff. It might open a few doors, and if you don't
Right.
have that stuff, you might have to work a little harder to open some of the doors. But
Right.
at the end of the day, even if let's say I talk to a VC and my idea is worthless,
Right.
they're going to tell me no. I'm not going to give you
Right.
money. If I talk
Right.
to a customer and what I'm offering doesn't add value, they're going to tell me no.
Right.
Right. So at the end of the day, while those things might help, but they're not the core. The
Mm.
core is the quality of your idea and your ability to execute.
Right.
And for entrepreneurs, I think the quality of the idea, it starts with the quality of the idea, where the idea
Mm.
has to be thoughtful enough, it has to be insightful enough, it
Right.
has to be something that either not a lot of people other people have thought about it or not a lot
Right.
of people can do and
Right.
you believe you can do it. If
Got
you
it.
have those two things, I'd say go for it. And frankly, I believe that everything in this world is whatever you want to call it, luck, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it, right? Like we have no control over it. However, the smarter you are, the harder you work, the better your odds.
Mm.
It generally is all about improving your odds.
Mm.
At the end of the day, we see companies. I see a lot of companies with fantastic founders, great market fit, unbelievable work ethic. Product is great, but the conditions aren't just right, and it
Mm.
doesn't work. And I see okay founders in a time of the market where everything is great and it takes off and it becomes a huge success, right?
Mm.
So at the end of the day, there are too many variables. The best time to do it is now.
Mm.
Don't wait. The best time to do is now. Work hard and get smarter on it.
Mm.
obsess over it. If you're not all in, if you're not obsessive over it, frankly, your chances of success dramatically drop.
All right. Impressive. This is my last question, and I know it's going to be a bit on a tangent, but I want to see what you would say.
I am very intrigued by your questions, especially the tangent ones. The tangent ones are usually the ones that I don't fight.
Nice, nice, nice. I'm glad you love them. Would you ever go back to drilling oil? I got you there.
Not if I have a choice. No.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, you always have a choice. I
Okay.
wouldn't go now. I wouldn't go back now. Like
Mm,
I am genuinely enjoying and loving what I do now, and I have so many options of things. If I don't do what I do now, I have so many options to do things and ideas to do things
mm,
beyond this one.
mm,
Um, Oil wouldn't be my first, second, or third choice for me.
mm. Impressive.
Don't get me wrong; I have nothing but respect. Like the people I work with there, they're my brothers, right? Like they had my back. I had their back in one of the most dangerous and hostile jobs available, right? And I trusted those folks with my life.
Mm,
I know they had my back, and I had theirs.
mm,
The bond there is incredible. 20 years
mm,
later, I'm still in touch with them.
mm. That's amazing.
I don't want to be on a rig in the North Shore.
Who knows? Maybe you could potentially become an investor. You could be on that side of the oil chain.
I invest lightly in oil futures, but
Okay.
but not that
Fair.
much.
Fair. That's
I'm a
okay.
tech guy now. I like tech. I like the 10x and the 100x and the 1000x
Mm,
that tech brings. It's
mm,
incredibly it's incredible, and yes, there can be a lot of hype, but there's also incredible amounts of value. I mean,
mm,
think about a very simple thing that we take super for granted today.
mm,
Um, Ride sharing, Uber and Lyft.
mm.
Before it was just taxis or public transportation,
Right.
and Uber and Lyft and Kareem and all the others that came in, they basically opened up a whole new mode of transportation that opened up a whole new world for logistics and food delivery and same day delivery and
Music.
fast deliveries
Right.
and a whole lot of other things,
Mm,
right? And it created a whole lot of jobs. It changed even industries such as the automotive industry, where fewer and fewer people are buying cars because they don't have to,
got it.
right?
Got it. Got it.
With some
Ahmed,
code.
yeah, you were saying? Go for it.
No, and all of this is with, well, a lot of code, but with a bunch of code, but
Right. Fair. Bunch of code. Yes, it sure
and a whole lot
is.
of ops to be fair, but you see the code.
Very much. Yes, I do get it. Ahmed, if it was up to me, I will have you here for the whole day and just keep digging into your mind. But even though I want to drill into your mind, you have to go and drill. You have
Not
to,
far though, not
not
try
too
not.
far. I shouldn't go too far. Fair enough. But I would want you to, keep, go back and crack on and drill into the data space and keep up the great work you're doing. First and foremost, thank you so much for gracing the Textile podcast and bringing your humor, bringing your being open, being vulnerable about the challenges you've had, but above it all, just also keeping it, very lively. And thank you, David and Kevin, for making this possible. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what sapient AI becomes. And I'm cheering you on. I'm here cheering you on.
I really appreciate it. It's going to be epic. Stay tuned. And, thank you, Raymond. Thank you, David. I had a blast. Thank you,
I
guys.
had a blast too. Thank you so much.
Indeed, the journey of entrepreneurship isn't an easy one. Driving the vision forward, regardless of the challenges you have in your personal life, is not a non trivial task. However, Ahmed Rashad reminds us that although creating quality ideas and bringing great change is very important, the foundation to allow all of this to be possible is a sound mind and body. And family time is an important ingredient in this recipe. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the TechStuff Podcast. See you in the next episode.